so my purpose is to come in here and really help inspire parents to ask more questions, to perhaps clear the clutter, to make it more concrete at the same time that they're constantly looking at the big picture and say, how does, for example, crawling or cooing and babbling, those building blocks, help the child on the other side? I'm Erin Hyer from Hyer Learning, and I'm so glad to be here. This Tuesday, today, I want to talk about prevention because that really is my focus. After 30 years of being in private practice and consulting with public and private schools, I've realized that there's so much more that parents need to be informed of, that parents can really get back in the driver's seat and learn how to navigate this, perhaps with a guide like myself, but that it's more and more important that parents understand what prevention really means and how early development, speech and language, motor skills, self-regulation, being able to tolerate transitions and change and growth, and all of these support cognition. And no matter what the future holds, with or without a pandemic, with or without support from your schools, that you, mom and dad and families, have the ability to give your child the best foundation so they can then thrive in any learning environment, whether it's homeschool or half and half of this hybrid, whatever happens. Because our little guys, our 1, 2, 3, and 4-year-olds, are building that foundation. And so whether you decide to continue to homeschool them or send them into a new school system, whatever the heck that looks like on the other side, my goal is to help you know how to support, love, encourage your kids into capable, independent, happy, and healthy individuals. So it's all about prevention. And even though we have these systems, these medical systems, these school-based systems that can check off these boxes that I've mentioned before, that look at behaviors and say, oh, he looks like he is struggling with this or struggling with this diagnosis or having problems here or there. The key is 50% of those struggles can be re-managed and really realigned with his or her greater self, greater purpose. I do not expect all kids to be the same. I've always said for well over 30 years, we don't want everybody to be equally in math or equally in art or equally in sports or music or whatever they choose to be in this world. But we want to give everybody a solid foundation so then their spirit, their essence, their purpose on this planet then comes out, and that they have choices, that they can communicate effectively, and then that turns into literacy skills, and that they then have an opportunity, not necessarily to write books or to become orators, but to really have that choice that they can use that medium, literacy, which is man-made, isn't really natural, but they have enough competence in that area that they can reach and learn whatever they choose to do. So it's all about from the beginning, from in utero, when they're growing and developing in those precious 9 months in the mother's womb, and then how they enter this world, and then those first couple of years of how we're helping them understand and regulate this three-dimensional world, at the same time honoring and respecting their essence, their spirit, their soul, and all of that. That's the whole child. And even though I focus on speech and language, I don't negate the fact that motor skills are driving this as well. Because we don't just have this cognition or this linguistic base and start talking, that we actually have oral motor skills that correlate with speech and language development, that are also then embedded in how well they chew and how well they swallow. And all of these developmental areas are in sync with one another. But that's a lot of detail. That's 30 plus years of study and practice and diving deep into the science and getting really geeky about a lot of different things. But I have felt blessed to really know where to dive deep and how to change my perspective in helping me serve my families that I have served in my private practice. And now being able to reach a larger community to help moms and dads really understand that prevention is key, that we as human beings are very, very adaptable, very malleable. We call it neuroplasticity, and that it's shaping and reshaping. And unfortunately, the systems that we send our kids into, the educational system, the medical community, they have developed over the last 50 years, creating these boxes or these categories that I think are very limiting. And it's interesting that this whole COVID lockdown distancing has forced us to say, wow, maybe these systems that we've developed and started to rely on aren't quite as necessary as we once thought. And maybe if we bring it back to some basics and really look at what early development is and what education should be, that it should be the whole child, and it should be outside and inside. It should be big picture and little picture, and something that I've always talked about learning from the top down and the bottom up, that gestalt, that whole language, the whole open-ended inquiry. At the same time is, what about the building blocks? What about the simplicity? What about the sequential patterns about development? And so my purpose is to come in here and really help inspire parents to ask more questions, to perhaps clear the clutter, to make it more concrete, at the same time that they're constantly looking at the big picture and say, how does, for example, crawling or cooing and babbling, those building blocks, help the child on the other side, help with synchronicity and organization, and help kids learn how to prioritize? How do those building blocks speak to conversational skills and speak to being able to take these circle of communication episodes where a 3 and a 4-year-old should be able to have a conversation? Might change topics a little more than you or I would, but that they understand. And it's because they have these building blocks that they went through that are important and necessary to have this bigger holistic being. So really focusing on parents who are open to looking at opportunities to learn, organization of their daily life for their child to understand how this environment works, to being present and purposeful and playful, to being energized, and to be able to experience with the child how these developmental steps, these building blocks, will help them develop into this bigger whole being. And then to understand the introduction of what novelty means and how the brain learns to learn, and there has to be some change. That these novice pieces of information, even though especially a very, very young child likes routines, like repetition, but at the same time, how the brain really learns to learn is that we have to change it up once in a while. And what's that kind of rhythm? What neuroscience has taught us is that it's an 80-20 balance, that they need a lot of positive reinforcement, that they need repetition to make it automatic. That, one of the examples I always give families is when a child is about 4 or 5 and they're learning how to tie their shoe, they use 10,000 neurons to try to organize the laces, and their tongue sticks out and they're squirming and they're moving and they're making these bunny laces. And then after 100 tries or 1,000 tries, they can start to tie their shoe in the dark and they don't even think about it. They can have a conversation or chew gum at the same time as tying their shoe. When once it took thousands of neurons to try to fire together with this right hemisphere and this left hemisphere and these strings and inside out and looping around all the way down to the end of your foot, which again, that's a long neural pathway to get to the organization of it. It's all designed for a reason. That human beings, I believe, were created with this incredible intelligence, this incredible innate ability to grow and learn and change. And we have to give them opportunity to do that. And in future videos, I'll talk about the balance between nature and nurture and how that continues to be incredibly important in this modern world. So, prevention. Understand, moms and dads, that we need the top down. So we need the big picture. They need the big story. They need to be able to run around outside. They need to be able to run around and be free-spirited at the same time that we need that structure and that routine, and that there's a reason why kids move through cooing and babbling and first words and then 2-word utterances. That's why they can follow 1-step directions and then 2-step directions. And that's why it's important that they are encouraged to crawl and to move about on all 4 as they're wiring their neurological system and as they're moving up into this 3-dimensional world, standing on their feet. And then they begin to walk aided, and then they begin to walk and run, and it's a process. So we need these building blocks from the bottom up, but we also need these big opportunities and that free flowing. So prevention is understanding, mom and dad, that every month, every year is important, and that you can take this information and apply it and use it in real time, and then come back and ask more questions. But that you, mom and dad, took on this responsibility, and I want you to know that you're not alone, no matter what the schools do or the medical community, like I said, or the extended community at large, that you as a family, as a parent, are not alone, and that we together, exploring what the possibilities are for your child and who she or he is thriving to be, that we take it step by step at the same time that we back up every once in a while and say, you know what, the kid is in a pretty good groove right here. Let him kind of spread his wings and see what he can do. So there's that balance. And so I just want you to think about this week about prevention, looking at opportunity, being present, being engaged and eager, and being able to really supply some novelty, because that's where the neurological development really thrives. Speaking to the parents who are incredibly motivated, knowing that they can do this, that there's so much natural instinct, but at the same time to be informed, to be knowledgeable, to be aware of what they can do to counterbalance this modern world that we're living, so your child can be thriving on the other side, knowing that their child just needs that support and the direction and what to pay attention to, what not to pay attention to, and how to clear up some of the clutter and the uncertainty, and to really parent with confidence. It's about loving and supporting your child at the same time to have these individual pieces of information of what is happening at the neurological level, helping your child line up and staying on track and developing into the best version of themselves. Let me know if you have any questions. You can DM me. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm really, really excited to do this for all of you. And let me know what you need, and we'll go in that direction. Okay, take care. Happy Tuesday. Talking Toddler on Tuesday, Erin Hyer, Hyer Learning. Take care. Bye.